All right, let's jump right in. We are going to unpack a totally new way of looking at our overloaded, always-on digital lives. If you were just sick and tired of feeling burned out, well, this right here is a fresh system for getting your well-being back on track. Does this sound familiar? I mean, come on, who hasn't felt this way? That constant digital noise, that feeling of being pulled in a million directions at once? It's not just in your head. It's a real symptom of a much, much bigger problem we're all dealing with. You know, for years, we've been sold this idea of work-life balance. But here's a thought. What if that whole concept is actually setting us up to fail? What if the goal itself is the problem? So let's start by just taking apart this old, outdated idea. The picture of a perfectly balanced scale looks nice, sure, but it has absolutely nothing to do with the messy, tangled-up reality of our lives today. Okay, so here's the real problem. The whole myth of work-life balance pretends that work and life are these two separate things, constantly fighting each other. But in the real world, they're totally intertwined. Trying to force them apart is, well, it's like trying to unbake a cake. It's just an unrealistic fight that ends up creating more stress, not less. So if balance is a dead end, what's the real issue? Let's get to the actual diagnosis for why so many of us feel completely and utterly exhausted. Just look at this number for a second. 72%. According to the Digital Barometer, that's how many adults in France are spending over 2 hours a day on screens just for personal stuff. Now, just imagine adding all your work hours on top of that. It's pretty clear we're living in a state of total digital saturation. This isn't just a bad habit anymore. It's a serious public health concern. And yup, this feeling has a name: digital burnout. It's a very specific kind of exhaustion that comes from being constantly plugged in. We're not just talking about being tired here. This is a deep, bone-deep mental and physical fatigue that comes from the sheer volume of our digital world. So what's causing this? Well, it's not just one thing. It's this perfect storm of hyperconnectivity that keeps our brains on high alert 24/7. It's infobesity, which is a great word for when your brain is just full and can't take in any more information. And of course, it's that nonstop pressure to react to everything, to multitask, which just completely blurs the lines we're trying so hard to draw. And all those causes lead to some very real, very frustrating symptoms. Brain fog, struggling to concentrate, terrible sleep, that constant low-level irritability. Listen, if you're nodding your head to anything on this list, trust me, you are not alone. These are the bright red warning signs our bodies and minds are screaming at us. Okay. We've got the diagnosis. And because the problem is digital, a purely digital solution like another productivity app just isn't going to cut it. We need a human solution. So it's time to throw that old two-sided scale in the trash and bring in a new model that actually reflects our whole complicated lives. This right here is the big shift in thinking. We've got to stop thinking about balancing just two things. Our well-being is so much bigger and more interesting than that. It's not about balancing two rocks on a scale. It's about tending to a whole garden. And this is that garden. It's called the Wellness Wheel, and it shows us that real, true well-being is made up of 8 connected parts: physical, emotional, social, intellectual, spiritual, vocational, financial, and even environmental. I mean, think about it. When you nurture your social life with actual, real-life friends, it pushes back against that online isolation. When you work on your intellectual health by reading a real book, it fights that brain fog from multitasking. See? They all work together, and making them stronger is the absolute best antidote to digital burnout. And you want to know the best part? The goal is not to get a perfect 10 in every single one of these slices. Whew, that would be just as stressful as the old way. No, the real goal is to find your own personal harmony, a unique mix that feels good and right for you, right where you are in your life. So how do we actually find that harmony? Let's get practical. Let's talk about how to build a personal system that you can actually use every single day. This is where we turn the ideas into action. Oh man, this quote from James Clear is just everything. It's so true. We all have goals, right? Like, I want to be healthier or I want to be less stressed. But goals are just wishes. It's the daily systems, the little habits we build, that actually decide where we end up. Let's just grab one of those wellness wheel slices as an example. Take physical wellness. It's not just one thing. It's a whole system of exercise, what you eat, and how you sleep. Each one of those supports the others, and together they build this super strong foundation for your overall well-being. And we can get really specific here. We know from research that a mix of cardio and strength training is huge for your health. So, a simple system could be aiming for about 150 minutes of moderate cardio and 2 strength sessions every week. That's a powerful system for your physical health right there. So, how do we actually build these new habits into our systems? Well, behavioral psychology has this awesome, simple 4-step loop. It all starts with a cue, that's the trigger. That cue leads to a craving. That craving pushes you to a response, the habit itself. And finally, you get a reward that tells your brain, hey, that was good, let's do that again. If you can understand this loop, you can build any habit you want. Now, a really critical part of any good system is setting boundaries. This is absolutely non-negotiable if you want to fight back against that hyperconnectivity we talked about earlier. You have a right to disconnect. That means you have to actively ban work tools and emails outside of the hours you've set. It's not about balance, it's about protecting your personal time like a fortress. Okay, let's pull all of this together. It is officially time to say goodbye to work-life balance and replace it with a new, much more powerful North Star for how we live and work. So let's talk about the idea of work-life success. This isn't about splitting your time into neat little piles. It's about integration. It's a way of thinking where your personal life actually makes you better at your job and your work gives you a sense of purpose that makes your personal life richer. They're not fighting each other. They're on the same team. And this really gets to the heart of it all, doesn't it? We've been trained our whole lives to measure success with job titles and paychecks. But what if the real scoreboard was just happiness, fulfillment, that feeling of contentment? Changing how we define success is maybe the most powerful act of self-care there is. So here it is, the big takeaway. We move forward not by chasing some impossible idea of balance, but by carefully and intentionally building a system for ourselves, a system made up of tiny, sustainable habits that, day by day, nurture all those different dimensions of our wellness wheel. And that brings us to our last thought, which is really the most important one. It's a question just for you. Not what you're going to do next week or next month, tomorrow. What is one small, tiny, easy habit that you can start building into your system to create your own personal harmony?